Looking back, I should have known the divorce was just the beginning. You don't spend 23 years with someone and really know them. Not deep down. 2 years of silence. And then 3 knocks on my door at 7 in the morning. That's when I learned what she'd really been planning. My name is Daniel Dixon, but everyone calls me Dan. I'm 60 years old, and for 32 years I operated chemical processing equipment at the Hartwell Industrial Complex outside Fort Worth, Texas. Good union job, steady paycheck, the kind of work that let me raise a daughter and buy a house. I retired 18 months ago with a decent pension, thinking I'd earned some peace and quiet. 2 years after I divorced my unfaithful wife, the police showed up at my house out of the blue. It was a Tuesday morning in February, 7:15 exactly. I was standing in my kitchen in a t-shirt and jeans, coffee mug halfway to my lips, when I heard 3 hard knocks on my front door. The kind of knocks that aren't asking permission, they're announcing arrival. I opened the door to find 2 detectives on my porch, county sheriff badges catching the weak winter sunlight. Behind them, I could see my neighbor Mrs. Patterson's curtain move. Across the street, old Henry Wilcox was suddenly very interested in his mailbox. The first detective was a woman, maybe 45, with sharp eyes that looked like they'd seen too many liars. Detective Lisa Peck, her card said later. "Mr. Dixon?" she asked. "Daniel Raymond Dixon?" I nodded, feeling the cold February air bite through my thin shirt. "We need to ask you about some loan applications submitted in your name over the past 18 months, Detective Peck said. Her voice was professional, neutral. "Are you aware of those applications, sir?" My coffee had gone cold in my hand. I set it down on the little table by the door. "I haven't applied for any loans," I said, keeping my voice steady. "I live on my pension." "What's this about?" The second detective, younger guy named Torres, pulled out a notebook. 8 applications to various banks, he said. Amounts ranging from $9,000 to $15,000. Your signature on every one. That's approximately $48,000 total. My hand started shaking. I knew immediately. Sharon, my ex-wife, the woman who'd already taken half of everything I'd worked for in the divorce. "That's not possible," I said. "We've been divorced 2 years. I haven't had any contact with her." Detective Peck's expression didn't change, but I caught something in her eyes. Doubt maybe. Or worse, like she'd heard this story before from guilty men. "Would you be willing to come down to the station?" she asked. "Tomorrow afternoon, say 2 o'clock? Answer some questions. Help us clear this up." I heard what she wasn't saying. They thought I'd done it. Or at least they weren't sure I hadn't. "Yeah," I said. "All right. Tomorrow at 2. They thanked me, handed me a card, and walked back to their unmarked sedan. I stood in my doorway until they pulled away, conscious of every pair of eyes on me. Mrs. Patterson wasn't even pretending anymore. She was right there in her window, phone already pressed her ear. I closed the door and leaned against it. My rental house, small and drafty but mine, suddenly felt like it was closing in. The walls were thin enough that I could hear my other neighbor's television through the drywall. Before I could move, I heard footsteps on my porch. Frank Richardson, my neighbor from 2 houses down, didn't bother knocking. He opened the screen door and stuck his head in. "Dan, you okay?" Frank asked. He was 64, retired state trooper, 30 years under his belt. Built like a fire hydrant, with gray hair cut military short. "Police say someone took out loans in my name," I said. My voice came out rougher than I intended. 8 of them. Nearly 50 grand. Frank's jaw tightened. He stepped inside and closed the door behind him. "Sharon," he said. It wasn't a question. "Who else?" I replied. Frank had been my neighbor since I moved into this rental after the divorce. He'd seen me at my lowest, helped me move my few remaining possessions, sat with me on nights when the silence got too loud. "When's the last time you talked to her?" Frank asked. "The day the divorce was final. 24 months ago." I looked at my hands. They were still shaking. I thought it was over, Frank. I thought I was done with her. Frank glanced back toward the street where Mrs. Patterson was still watching. "Come on," he said. "Let's talk inside. No sense giving the whole neighborhood a show." Frank made coffee while I spread my divorce papers across the kitchen table. The decree was 8 pages of legal language that boiled down to one simple fact. Sharon got the house and $42,000 from the equity. I kept my pension and my truck. Everything else we'd built in 23 years of marriage got split down the middle or sold off. "Look at this," I said, pointing to page 6. "All debts incurred by either party following the execution of this decree shall be the sole responsibility of the party incurring said debt. Frank leaned over my shoulder, reading. He smelled like Old Spice and coffee. Should protect you, he said. But there's something else here. He tapped a note I'd written in the margin. What's this about? I'd written, Sharon needs SSN for final tax return. Given March 15th, 2023. Our last year of marriage, we filed jointly. I explained. Week after I moved out, she called. Said she needed my social security number to finish the paperwork. I gave it to her without thinking twice. Dan, Frank said quietly. That's how she did it. My stomach turned over. 23 years of marriage, and I'd handed her the keys to destroy me without a second thought. My phone buzzed. Emily, my daughter, finally calling back. I'd left her 3 messages since the police showed up. Dad, Emily said when I answered. Her voice was tight, controlled. The voice she used at work when dealing with difficult patients. She was a nurse at Harris Methodist, and that professional tone meant she was upset. Honey, I need to talk to you about something, I started. I already know, she interrupted. Mom called me this morning. She told me what's happening. My chest tightened. What did she tell you? That you're in trouble with the police. That you're trying to blame her for loans you took out. Emily's voice wavered. She said you've been calling her, threatening her. Dad, what's going on? I gripped the phone tighter. Frank was watching me, his cop instincts reading every expression on my face. Emily, listen to me, I said, keeping my voice steady. I haven't called your mother. I haven't spoken to her since the divorce. She's lying. She was crying, Dad. Really crying. Of course she was. Sharon had always been able to cry on command. I'd watched her do it with sales clerks, with our marriage counselor, with the divorce mediator. Tears were her weapon of choice. I can prove I didn't take out those loans, I said. The police showed me forged signatures. Bank statements with charges I never made. She's stealing my identity. Silence on the line. For a moment, I thought maybe I'd gotten through to her. I can't do this right now, Emily said finally. I have to get to work. Don't call me about Mom anymore, Dad. Please. I can't be in the middle of whatever's happening between you two. There's nothing happening between us, I tried to say, but she'd already hung up. I set the phone down carefully on the table. Frank was pouring himself more coffee, giving me a moment. She chose her mother, I said. She doesn't know the whole story yet, Frank replied. Give her time. I don't have time. I stood up, started pacing my small kitchen. I have to go to the police station tomorrow. They think I'm a criminal. My daughter thinks I'm harassing her mother. And I've got maybe $2,000 in the bank to fight this. Frank set down his mug. You need a lawyer. Can't afford one. You can't afford not to have one, Frank said. Who handled your divorce? Janet Reeves. Cost me $2.50 an hour to watch Sharon take everything. Call her anyway, Frank said. See what she says. And Dan. He waited until I looked at him. Don't give up yet. Sharon made a mistake going after you. She should have stayed gone. After Frank left, I sat alone in my kitchen, staring at my phone. Through the wall, I could hear my neighbor's television, some game show with Ken laughter that sounded hollow and far away. Sharon had been working on this for 2 years. 2 years of forging my signature, stealing my identity, destroying my credit. And now she had Emily convinced I was the problem. I picked up my phone and called Janet Reeves. It was time to start fighting back. Detective Peck's office smelled like burnt coffee and frustration. I sat across from her desk at 2 o'clock sharp, my folder of divorce documents in my lap. She'd kept me waiting 20 minutes, probably a tactic to make me sweat. Mr. Dixon, she said, sliding a stack of photocopied loan applications across her desk. Take a look at these. I picked up the first one. Personal loan, $11,000, submitted 16 months ago to First Texas Bank. My name, my social security number, my employment history at Hartwell Industrial. But the signature, while close, wasn't mine. The D in Dixon had a loop I'd never made. That's not my signature, I said. It's close enough to fool a bank, Detective Peck replied. Her tone was neutral, but I heard the skepticism underneath. And a notary. See the stamp? Notary named Rachel Perkins verified your identity. Says she met with you personally. I've never met anyone named Rachel Perkins. Detective Peck leaned back in her chair, studying me. Mr. Dixon, help me understand something. You're telling me you had zero knowledge of $48,000 in loans taken out in your name over 18 months. That's exactly what I'm telling you. But your ex-wife would have access to your personal information? She asked. I gave her my social security number for our final tax return. I admitted. That's it. I never told her where I moved after the divorce. Peck pulled out another document. Bank statements from one of the fraudulent accounts. These charges. Restaurants in Dallas. Shopping at Nordstrom. A lease payment for a Lexus. $470 a month. You drive a Lexus, Mr. Dixon. I drive a 2015 F-150, I said. Paid off 6 years ago. She tapped one charge that made my blood run cold. Premium spa package at the Grand Hotel. $2,000. You remember taking that vacation? No, because I never did. I pulled out my own phone, scrolled through my calendar. Those dates, I was in San Antonio visiting my brother. He was recovering from surgery. I can prove it. Peck made a note, but her expression didn't change. Here's what concerns me, Mr. Dixon. This looks like possible conspiracy. You and your ex-wife working together, then you claiming fraud when the debt got too high. My hands tightened on the chair arms. I understand how it looks, but I'm telling you the truth. I didn't know about any of this until you knocked on my door yesterday. Then you need to help me prove that, Peck said. Don't leave Fort Worth. We'll be in touch. Walking out of the sheriff's office, I felt like everyone was watching me. The deputies at their desks, the people in the waiting room, even the secretary who buzzed me through the door. All of them seeing a criminal. I drove home in a fog, barely seeing the road. When I pulled into my driveway, I saw Frank on his porch, waiting. How'd it go? He asked, crossing over to my yard. She thinks I'm lying, I said. Or at least she's not sure I'm not. Frank's jaw tightened. We need to get ahead of this. I made some calls today. Used some old contacts. He pulled a folded paper from a jacket pocket. Sharon's credit report. I know a guy who owes me a favor. I unfolded it, scanned the numbers. Sharon's credit score had tanked after the divorce. From 710 to 502 in 6 months. Inquiry after inquiry, all denied. She couldn't get loans in her own name anymore, Frank said. So, she started using yours. How'd you get this? I asked. Better you don't know, Frank said. But look at the timing. It all started exactly when her credit died. That's not coincidence, Dan. That's desperation. For the first time since the police showed up, I felt something shift. Not hope exactly, but possibility. There's more, Frank said. I found the notary who stamped those documents. Rachel Perkins works out a UPS store on Henderson Street. I'm going to pay her a visit tomorrow. See what she remembers. Frank, you don't have to do this. Yeah, I do, he said. Because if Sharon gets away with this, she'll do it to someone else. And because you're my friend, and friends don't let friends get railroaded. The call came 3 days later while I was fixing a leaky faucet under my kitchen sink. Local number I didn't recognize. Mr. Dixon, this is Steve Harmon from the Fort Worth Telegraph. I froze. A reporter. This was about to get public. I'm working on a story about financial fraud in Tarrant County, Harmon continued. His voice was young, eager. Your name came up in some police reports. I wanted to get your side of the story. No comment. I said immediately. I understand you're being investigated for loan fraud. 8 applications, nearly $50,000. Your ex-wife has filed a restraining order against you, claiming harassment. Any truth to that? My stomach dropped. What restraining order? Filed yesterday morning. Claims you've been calling her, threatening her, stalking her residence. Says she fears for her safety. I sat down hard on my kitchen floor, still holding the wrench. I haven't contacted her. Not once in 2 years. That's not what the court documents say, Mr. Dixon. She has phone records showing multiple calls from your number. Those are fake, I said. Someone spoofed my number. Right, Harmon said, and I heard the skepticism. Look, I'm running this story tomorrow. Front page of the local section. You want to give me a statement? Now's your chance. My statement is that I'm the victim here, not the criminal. Sharon Dixon forged my signature on loan applications. She's been stealing my identity for almost 2 years. According to who? Harmon asked. According to the evidence. Asked Detective Peck. I did. She said the investigation is ongoing and no charges have been filed. After I hung up, I just sat there on my kitchen floor. A restraining order meant Sharon was escalating. Building a narrative where I was the dangerous ex-husband. She was the terrified victim. My phone rang again. Emily this time. Dad, did you really file for a restraining order against Mom? She asked without preamble. What? No. She filed one against me. That's not what she told me. She said you're making threats, that the police told her to protect herself. Emily, she's lying. About everything. I don't know who to believe anymore, Emily said. Her voice broke. This is tearing me apart, Dad. Why can't you two just leave each other alone? I am leaving her alone. She's the one destroying my life. I have to go, Emily said. Please just stop. Whatever's happening between you two, please just stop. She hung up before I could respond. I called Frank. He came over within 5 minutes. Newspaper's running a story tomorrow, I told him. Front page. And Sharon filed a restraining order. Claims I've been threatening her. Frank's expression darkened. She's boxing you in, making it harder for you to defend yourself. How do I fight someone who's willing to lie about everything? With the truth, Frank said. I talked to Rachel Perkins today, the notary. She remembers Sharon. Says a woman matching her description paid her $200 cash to stamp documents without verifying anything. Will she testify to that? She's scared. Doesn't want trouble. But I got her to write a statement. Frank pulled out a handwritten page. It's not much, but it's something. My phone buzzed. Text from a number I didn't know. You're going to pay for what you did to me. I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of man you really are. I showed Frank. He took a screenshot with his own phone. That's from Sharon, I said. Save it, Frank said. Save everything. She's getting sloppy, Dan. Angry people make mistakes. The letter from Texas State Pension arrived on a Friday morning. Official letterhead. Certified mail. I knew it was bad before I opened it. Dear Mr. Dixon, due to an ongoing criminal investigation regarding your financial activities, we are temporarily suspending your monthly pension distributions pending resolution of the matter. This is standard procedure when fraud allegations are involved. My hands went numb. The pension was all I had. $1,600 a month that covered my rent, utilities, food, and the medication I took for blood pressure. Without it, I had maybe 3 weeks before I'd be on the street. I called the pension office immediately. Got transferred 3 times before reaching someone who could actually talk to me. Mr. Dixon, I understand your frustration, the woman said, her voice professionally sympathetic. But when there's a police investigation involving potential fraud, we have to protect the fund. It's policy. I'm the victim here, I said, forcing myself to stay calm. My ex-wife forged my signature. I didn't commit any fraud. Then I'm sure this will be resolved quickly and your benefits will be reinstated. How quickly? That depends on the investigation. Could be weeks, could be months. Months. I couldn't last months. After I hung up, I just sat there staring at the letter. Then my phone rang. Number I didn't recognize, but I answered anyway. Mr. Dixon, this is Karen Phillips from First National Bank. I'm calling about your truck loan. You're 3 months past due on payments. What truck loan? My truck's paid off. According to our records, you took out a $12,000 loan against your 2015 F-150 8 months ago. You've missed the last 3 payments. If we don't receive payment within 10 days, we'll begin repossession proceedings. My truck, the only thing I had left that was actually mine. Sharon had somehow gotten a title loan against it without me knowing. That's fraud, I said. I never took out that loan. Sir, we have your signature on the application. And the title. Check that signature against my driver's license. It won't match. I'll make a note in your file, but until the legal issues are resolved, the loan remains in default. 10 days, Mr. Dixon. She hung up. I walked outside, looked at my truck sitting in the driveway. My dad had helped me buy it 6 years ago, right before he died. We'd driven to the dealership together, negotiated the price, shaken hands with the salesman. It was the last thing we did together. And now Sharon was taking that too. Frank found me sitting on my porch steps an hour later. You look like hell, he said. I told him about the pension, about the truck loan. She's trying to break you, Frank said. Financially, emotionally, every way she can. It's working. No. Frank sat down next to me. It's not. Because you're still standing. And I've got something that might help. He pulled out his phone, showed me a Facebook page. Found Sharon's boyfriend. Brett Hoffman, city councilman. Married, 2 kids, runs on family values. I looked at the profile picture. Clean-cut guy in his 40s, American flag in the background, wife and kids smiling beside him. He's the one she left me for, I said. Yep, and he's got a lot to lose if this comes out. Frank scrolled through more photos. Look at this. Posted 3 weeks ago. Cabo San Lucas, family vacation. $3,200 worth of resort and flights. The same amount as one of the fraudulent loans. She's spending stolen money on vacations with her boyfriend, I said. And he's either in on it or incredibly stupid, Frank said. Either way, this gives us leverage. My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. How does it feel, Dan? Losing everything? That's what you did to me. Now you know how it feels. Sharon. She was watching me somehow. Knew about the pension and the truck. I showed Frank the text. Save it, he said. But more importantly, respond. Keep her talking. Angry people confess. I typed. I never did anything to you. You left me, remember? The response came fast. You ruined my life. 23 years wasted on a loser. I deserve better. I deserve what you took from me. What did I take from you? Everything. My youth, my dreams, my chance at happiness. You owe me, and I'm collecting. Frank was reading over my shoulder. There it is. She thinks she's entitled to destroy you. That's not the text of someone who's scared. That's someone who feels justified. Another text. Brett treats me better in one day than you did in 23 years. He buys me things. Takes me places. Makes me feel valued. Is Brett helping you take out loans in my name? I typed. Long pause. Then, you can't prove anything. Not a denial. Almost an admission. Screenshot everything, Frank said. We want to nail her. The call came at 2 a.m. I was awake anyway, lying in bed staring at the ceiling, doing math in my head. Rent due in 8 days. Truck payment due in 10. No pension money coming in. Maybe $800 left in my checking account. I answered on the first ring. Dad. Emily's voice, but wrong. Shaking. Scared. What's wrong? I'm at the hospital. Harris Methodist. I need you to come. My heart stopped. Are you hurt? No, I'm working. But Dad, I need to talk to you. Please. Can you come? 20 minutes later, I walked into the emergency room. Emily met me in the hallway outside the nurse's station. Her scrubs had bloodstains on them, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She looked exhausted. What's going on? I asked. She pulled me into an empty consultation room, closed the door. I went to Mom's house tonight after my shift, Emily said, to return some dishes she'd lent me. The door was unlocked, so I walked in. She paused, choosing her words carefully. Dad, she has your mail. Stacks of it. Bank statements, credit card offers, pension notices. All addressed to you. All opened. My legs felt weak. How much? Months worth. Maybe a year. I took pictures before she caught me. Emily pulled out her phone, showed me image after image. My mail, spread across Sharon's kitchen table. Some of it dated back 18 months. She went crazy when she saw me taking photos. Emily continued. Started screaming that I was betraying her, that you turned me against her. She said things, Dad. Horrible things about you. About us. What things? Emily's eyes filled with tears. She said she deserved everything she took from you, that you owed her for wasting her best years. She said she'd been planning this since before the divorce, that she was going to bleed you dry and there was nothing you could do about it. I pulled Emily into a hug. She held on to me like she was drowning. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I should have believed you from the start. She's been lying to me this whole time. It's not your fault, I said. Yes, it is. I chose her over you. I let her poison me against you. Emily pulled back, wiped her eyes. But I'm choosing you now. I sent those photos to my email, to the cloud, to 3 different places. She can't delete them. Did she see you send them? I don't think so. But Dad, she's escalating. She knows I know now. I don't know what she'll do. As if on cue, my phone rang. Sharon. I put on speaker so Emily could hear. You turned my daughter against me, Sharon hissed. You poison her mind. I'll destroy you for this, Dan. I swear to God. I'll take everything. You already did, I said calmly. But I'm taking it back. You can't prove anything. It's your word against mine. Actually, Emily said, speaking up, it's your own mail theft, your own admissions and photographic evidence. I heard everything you said tonight, Mom, and I recorded it. Silence on the line. Then Sharon's voice, cold and sharp. You're just like your father. Weak. Pathetic. I should have left years ago. You should have, Emily agreed. Would have saved us all a lot of pain. Sharon hung up. Emily and I stood there in the consultation room, the fluorescent lights humming overhead, the hospital sounds muffled through the walls. What happens now? Emily asked. Now I call Frank, I said, and we take all this to Detective Peck. Your mom just made her first big mistake. Emily nodded. Good. Because she needs to pay for what she's done. Outside the hospital, the March night was cold and clear, stars visible despite the city lights. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. My daughter was back. I had evidence. The fight wasn't over, but now I had ammunition. Sharon wanted a war. She was about to get one. Frank knocked on my door at 6 in the morning, holding 2 cups of coffee and a folder thick with papers. "You're going to want to see this," he said, walking past me into the kitchen. He spread documents across my table like he was laying out a case file. I did some digging into Brett Hoffman, city councilman, runs on family values, champions of small business. Sharon's boyfriend, I said. Yeah, but here's the interesting part. Frank pulled out a printout of property records. 3 months ago, Hoffman bought a lake house in Granbury. Paid $340,000, cash. No mortgage. I looked at the date. Right in the middle of when the fraudulent loans were being taken out. Where does city councilman get that kind of cash? I asked. Exactly. Frank showed me more papers. His salary is $65,000 a year. His wife doesn't work. They've got 2 kids in private school, 2 car payments, a mortgage on their primary residence. The math doesn't work. You think he's in on it? I think Sharon's either paying him off or they're partners, Frank said. Either way, he's got a lot to lose if this comes out. Married man, family values politician, buying lakefront property with stolen money. My phone buzzed. Detective Peck, asking me to come to the station. Today, 10 o'clock. Bring any new evidence. Frank and I arrived early. Emily met us in the parking lot, still in her scrubs from her night shift. She looked exhausted but determined. Ready? I asked her. More than ready, she replied. Detective Peck's office looked the same as before, but her expression was different. Less skeptical, more interested. Mr. Dixon, she said, gesturing to the chairs across from her desk. You said you had new evidence. Emily stepped forward first. I'm Dan's daughter, Emily Dixon. I work as a nurse at Harris Methodist. 2 nights ago, I went to my mother's house and found these. She laid out printed photos of my mail, spread across Sharon's kitchen table. Bank statements, pension notices, credit card offers. All opened, all addressed to me. My mother admitted to me that she'd been stealing my father's identity since before the divorce. Emily continued. She said he owed her, that she deserved everything she was taking. I recorded the conversation. Emily played the audio on her phone. Sharon's voice, clear and angry. I deserve what you took from me. You owe me, and I'm collecting. Brett treats me better in 1 day than you did in 23 years. Detective Peck's expression hardened as she listened. Frank spoke up next. Detective, I have a statement from a notary, Rachel Perkins. She admits that a woman matching Sharon Dixon's description paid her $200 cash to stamp documents without verifying identity. He slid the handwritten statement across the desk. And there's this, Frank continued, showing the property records. Brett Hoffman, Sharon's boyfriend, purchased a lake house for $340,000 cash while these fraudulent loans were being processed. His legitimate income doesn't support that kind of purchase. Peck studied the documents for a long moment. Then she looked at me. Mr. Dixon, I owe you an apology. When this case first came across my desk, I thought. She paused. Well, I thought you might be involved. I've seen too many cases where ex-spouses work together, then turn on each other when things fall apart. You thought I was guilty, I said. I thought you might be. I was wrong. She stood up. I'm going to bring your ex-wife in for questioning. And I'm going to have a conversation with Mr. Hoffman. If he's been benefiting from stolen funds, that makes him an accessory. What about my pension? I asked. My truck loan. I'll contact the pension board today with my findings. As for the truck loan, you'll need to file a police report for identity theft. Use this case number. She wrote it down on a card. The bank should work with you once they see the criminal investigation. Walking out of the station, I felt lighter than I had in weeks. Emily linked her arm through mine. We did it, Dad, she said. Not yet, I replied. But we're close. Frank drove us to a diner on Rosedale. Over pancakes and coffee, we planned our next move. Sharon's going to know we went to the police, Emily said. She's going to panic. Good, Frank said. Panic people make mistakes. We just need to be ready when she does. My phone buzzed. Text from Sharon. You're going to regret this. All of you. I showed it to Frank and Emily. Save it, Frank said. Add it to the evidence pile. Another text. Brett has lawyers. Real lawyers. You'll never prove anything. She's scared, Emily observed. She wouldn't be threatening us if she wasn't. A third text. Emily, honey, your father is manipulating you. He's sick. He needs help. Please call me. Emily's jaw tightened. She typed a response. I saw the evidence with my own eyes, Mom. You're not the victim here. Stop pretending you are. No response after that. The eviction notice came 3 days later. Taped to my door, official letterhead from the property management company. Failure to pay rent. You have 5 days to vacate the premises. I'd paid rent. I knew I had. I checked my bank statement, and there it was. Check cleared 2 weeks ago. Same as always. I called the property management office. Mr. Dixon, according to our records, your February and March rent checks bounced, the woman said. We sent notices to your address, but you didn't respond. I never got any notices. And those checks didn't bounce. I have proof they cleared. Let me pull up your file. Pause. Typing. Oh, I see the issue. We've been sending notices to 2847 Mockingbird Lane. Is that not your current address? No. I live at 1635 Oakmont Drive. According to the system, you filed a change of address form 6 weeks ago. Updated your mailing address to Mockingbird Lane. My stomach dropped. I never filed any change of address. Well, someone did. It's in our system with your signature. Sharon. She'd changed my mailing address so I wouldn't get the eviction notices. Wanted me on the street before I could fight back. I drove to the property office with my bank statements and my lease. Took 2 hours and 3 supervisors, but eventually they agreed to cancel the eviction. Someone had forged my signature on the address change form. We'll need to file a police report, the manager said. This is fraud. Already have one open. I replied. Add it to the pile. That afternoon, Frank called. Turn on Channel 5 News. Now, I switched on my TV. Local news, midday broadcast. And there was Brett Hoffman, standing on the steps of City Hall with his wife and lawyer. These allegations are completely false, Hoffman was saying, reading from a prepared statement. I have never been involved in any fraudulent activity. My property purchases were made with legitimate funds from family investments. This is clearly a politically motivated attack by opponents who want to damage my reputation before the upcoming election. The reporter asked, Councilman Hoffman, what's your relationship with Sharon Dixon? Ms. Dixon is an acquaintance through real estate business. Nothing more. Any suggestion otherwise is defamatory. Frank called back. He's lying through his teeth. I know, I said. But here's the thing, Frank continued. He's running scared. Brought his wife, brought a lawyer, called a press conference. That's not what innocent people do. That evening, my phone rang. Number I didn't recognize, but a Fort Worth area code. Mr. Dixon, this is Pastor William Garrett from Grace Community Church. I believe your ex-wife Sharon attends here. I'd never been much for church, but Sharon had started going regularly after the divorce. Part of her reinvention as the wronged woman, I figured. Yes. I said cautiously, Mr. Dixon, I need to speak with you about something troubling. Would you be willing to meet with me? Tomorrow morning, perhaps? At the church. What's this about? I'd rather discuss it in person, if you don't mind. It concerns Sharon and some financial irregularities involving church funds. My heart started pounding. What kind of irregularities? Tomorrow morning, Mr. Dixon. 9 o'clock. I'll explain everything then. He hung up before I could ask more questions. I called Frank immediately. The pastor from Sharon's church just called me. I said, wants to meet tomorrow. Says something about financial irregularities and church funds. Frank was quiet for a moment. You think she stole from her church? At this point, I don't know what she's capable of. I'm going with you, Frank said. Whatever this is, you're not facing it alone. That night, I couldn't sleep. Lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything Sharon had done. The identity theft, the forged signatures, the stolen mail, manipulating Emily, attacking my reputation. And now, maybe stealing from a church. How had I been married to this person for 23 years and not seen it? Or had I seen it and just made excuses? Told myself everyone had flaws. That love meant accepting imperfections? My phone buzzed. Text from Emily. Can't sleep either. Keep thinking about who Mom really is. How do we miss it? I replied. We saw what she wanted us to see. Not your fault. Still hurts. I know. Love you, Dad. Love you too, Em. At midnight, another text came through. Unknown number. You think you've won, but this is just beginning. I'll destroy all of you. Sharon, using a burner phone. I saved the text, added it to the evidence folder that was getting thicker by the day, and tried to sleep. Tomorrow I'd find out what she'd done to the church. Tomorrow, the truth would keep coming out, and Sharon's carefully constructed lies would keep falling apart. Pastor Garrett's office smelled like old books and lemon polish. He was in his 60s, gray hair, tired eyes that had seen too much of human nature. Frank sat beside me as the pastor spread financial documents across his desk. Mr. Dixon, 3 months ago our church treasurer noticed discrepancies in our building fund, Pastor Garrett began. Small amounts at first. 200 here, 300 there. We assumed bookkeeping errors. But they weren't errors, I said. No. Sharon volunteers as our fundraising coordinator. She has access to donation records, donor information. We trusted her. He pulled out a ledger. Over 18 months, approximately $47,000 disappeared from various church accounts. The same amount as my fraudulent loans. She was stealing from the church to pay back the loan she took out in my name. I said, we believe so. But there's more. Pastor Garrett showed me another document. We found credit card applications for several of our elderly members. People who trusted Sharon to help them with their finances, many of them widows or widowers. She had access to their personal information through our care ministry. My stomach turned. How many? At least 4 that we found so far. Maybe more. His voice was heavy with guilt. I brought her into our community. I vouched for her, and she used that trust to prey on vulnerable people. It's not your fault, I said. Isn't it? I'm their shepherd. I should have protected them. Frank spoke up. Pastor, have you contacted the police? Yesterday. Detective Peck is coming this afternoon to collect our financial records. But Mr. Dixon, I want to tell you first. Your ex-wife stood in my pulpit 3 weeks ago. I asked her to share her testimony, her journey of faith after divorce. She talked about forgiveness, about moving forward. And the whole time, she was stealing from the people sitting in those pews. He looked at me with something like apology in his eyes. I believed her, Mr. Dixon, when she told me you were unstable, that she feared you, that you were harassing her. I believed every word. I even spoke against you from the pulpit, called you a troubled man who needed prayer and intervention. I'm sorry. You didn't know, I said. I should have. The signs were there. I just didn't want to see them. Walking out of the church, Frank put his hand on my shoulder. For more victims, he said. Maybe more. She's done, Dan. There's no walking away from this. That afternoon, Detective Peck called. Brett Hoffman had been arrested. Conspiracy to commit fraud, accessory after the fact, money laundering. His political career was over. His marriage was over. And he was looking at 5 to 10 years in prison. He's willing to testify against Sharon in exchange for a reduced sentence. Peck said she planned everything. He just provided money and political cover, probably lying about his level of involvement, but we'll take what we can get. What about Sharon? I asked. We're bringing her in tomorrow morning. Multiple counts of identity theft, fraud, embezzlement, elder abuse. She's looking at 20 to 25 years. Her lawyer's already talking about a plea deal. 25 years. Sharon would be in her 80s when she got out. If she got out. There's one more thing, Peck said. We found evidence she was planning to disappear. Fake passport, offshore bank account, plane tickets to Costa Rica. She was going to drain whatever assets she could and vanish. When? Next month. You exposed her just in time, Mr. Dixon. That evening, Emily came over with dinner. Homemade lasagna, her grandmother's recipe. We ate in my small kitchen, and for the first time in months, the silence felt comfortable instead of oppressive. The hospital called. Emily said, your pension is fully reinstated. They're sending a check for the months you missed. Good, I said. I can finally pay you back for the groceries. You don't owe me anything, Dad. Yeah, I do. You stood by me when everyone else walked away. Even when your own mother was lying to you. Emily set down her fork. Dad, I need to ask you something. How did you stay married to her for 23 years? How did you not see what she was? I thought about it for a long moment. I saw pieces of it, I admitted. The lying, the manipulation, the way she could turn on the tears whenever she needed something. But I told myself everyone had flaws. That love meant accepting imperfections. And I didn't want to admit I'd made a mistake. Didn't want to admit I'd wasted all those years on someone who didn't love me back. She did love you, Emily said, in her own broken way. No, I said firmly. Love doesn't steal. Love doesn't destroy. What Sharon felt for me was possession, not love. And I'm glad it's over. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Sharon pleaded not guilty despite the mountain of evidence against her. Her lawyer tried to paint her as a victim of mental illness, of an abusive marriage, of circumstances beyond her control. The jury didn't buy it. They heard from a church treasurer about the stolen funds. They heard from 4 elderly victims who'd trusted Sharon with their personal information. They heard Emily's testimony about finding the stolen mail, about Sharon's confession. They heard the recorded phone calls where Sharon admitted everything. And they heard from Brett Hoffman, who testified that Sharon had planned the entire scheme, that she'd manipulated him into helping her, that she'd used his political connections to delay the investigation. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced her to 18 years in federal prison. Brett Hoffman got 5 years for his role as an accessory. I sat in the courtroom and watched Sharon's face as they led her away in handcuffs. She looked at me once, and I saw something I'd never seen before in her eyes. Fear, not a prison. Fear that she'd finally lost control, that her manipulations had failed, that the world had seen who she really was. I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no anger, no sadness. Just relief that it was finally over. For months later, I was standing in my new apartment. Not a rental this time. A small condo I'd bought with money from a settlement against the banks that had failed to catch Sharon's fraud. 2 bedrooms, my own parking space, a view of the park. Frank helped me move in, same as he'd helped me move into the rental 2 years ago. But this time felt different. This time felt like a beginning instead of an ending. Emily arrived with lunch. She'd been promoted to the hospital, was seeing someone new, looked happier than I'd seen her in years. "Dad, I'm proud of you," she said, sitting on my new couch. "You could have given up. Most people would have. But you fought back. Had good people helping me," I said, looking at Frank. "You did the work," Frank replied. "I just pointed you in the right direction." My phone rang. "Detective Peck. Mr. Dixon. Thought you'd want to know. We found 3 more victims. Elderly people Sharon targeted through the church. We're contacting them now to help them recover their stolen identities." "Thank you for telling me," I said. "You're the one who deserves thanks. If you hadn't fought back, Sharon would still be out there, stealing from vulnerable people. You saved lives, Mr. Dixon." After she hung up, I walked to my balcony. The June sun was warm, the park below full of families and dog walkers, and people just living their normal lives. I thought about the man I'd been 2 years ago, broken by divorce, cleaned out financially, believing I'd never recover. And I thought about the man I was now, stronger, wiser, surrounded by people who actually cared about me. Sharon had tried to destroy me. Instead, she'd show me who I really was, and who my real family was. Emily joined me on the balcony, handed me a beer. "To new beginnings," she said, raising her bottle. "To surviving," I corrected. "And to the people who help us survive." We touched bottles and drank. Below us, the world kept turning. People fell in love and got divorced. They made mistakes and recovered from them. They trusted the wrong people and learned to trust the right ones. And somewhere in a federal prison, Sharon was learning that actions have consequences, that you can't destroy people and walk away clean, that eventually, the truth always comes out. I'd spent 23 years with a woman who saw me as a target. Now I had a daughter who loved me, a friend who'd stood by me when no one else would, and a life that was finally, truly mine. It wasn't the life I'd planned, but it was better than the one I'd lost.